During a government shutdown, there are many people who are affected when this happens. Today I'll be discussing some of the effects of a shutdown as well as the problems that government workers face when a shutdown occurs. The main topic will be, should the government workers continue to be paid during a government shutdown? So, to start off with, what is a shutdown? A government shutdown is when non-essential offices of the government close due to a lack of approval for the federal budget for the upcoming fiscal year. This usually happens around October 1st when the new fiscal year is about to start, but it can be delayed with approval of several economical bills that can sometimes push out the date all the way to January 20th or even later. But the last government shutdown in 2018 was on January 20th, which is why I was using it as an example. Some of the topics I'm going to discuss about are the people affected, the agencies that are affected, some of the myths that are about government shutdowns, some economical difficulties, as well as my own personal experience of government shutdowns. Let's get into some of the people that are affected by the shutdown. So over 13 million people are affected directly due to a government shutdown. That's not indirectly. It could be. This could also include. This doesn't include small businesses. This does not include people on welfare. This does not include any companies that are also helped, let's say, by bailouts or anything of that sort. 13 million people is a large amount of people, especially in the United States. I know we have many more, but this is about only 10% of that is active duty. So yeah, to take a scope of it, a lot more people are affected than just the military, and goes way beyond all of that. About 2 million are government employees to be furloughed. So many of these people are furloughed. They don't go to work, and they may never come back to their job to continue working because of the furlough. Sometimes during this reform, people may lose their jobs permanently. Many times during a fiscal or a government shutdown, many jobs are either combined together, so people do more with less, and people never come back to their jobs afterwards. To continue to some of the government agencies that are affected by the shutdown. This can go into the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Commerce, the DoD, Department of Defense, Department of Education, people going to schools, the teachers being paid their salaries. This would mostly be public schools, not private schools, as they are funded from tuition, much like colleges are. This also can go into the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, the IRS, as well as Department of Homeland Security. This list goes on and on and on. And some of the effects that happened during the government shutdown was 17 U.S. agents in 2013. Some of the effects of the government shutdown was 17 U.S. agencies were temporarily shut down. Nearly half of the Department of Transportation's 55,000 employees were furloughed from their jobs as due to being non-essential. The National Institute of Health researching was severely hindered. Current patients were still continued to be receiving care, but many of the things that they were doing at the time for research is that you cannot halt an experiment. An experiment has to keep going, and you can't just like put a hold on it. Many of these statistics were taken from the CBS News site that I'll have posted at the very end. Many of the unaffected agencies will be Social Security, the Postal Service, as well as the EPA. As these are already funded by the government prior to fiscal year or not attached to the government salaries entirely. That's why these three agencies are unaffected during that time. There are a few others, but these are the three main ones that I have pulled up. So a couple myths about the shutdown. So one of the myths was that there is a bill passed guaranteeing military pay. This is absolutely false. No bill has been passed permanently, but there was a government during the government shutdown in 2013. President Barack Obama had passed a bill temporarily to continue to pay the military and its service members during the time. This you can I found this information off the Washington Post and other many reliable resources. Another myth was that the government saves money during a shutdown. This is also proven false. Is that many times when the government shuts down, many of the employees are either back paid for their work, since as this could be an example of the DoD and many of the other essential government employees that continue to work, as well as some of the funding and contracts when they are cut off. It's much like a lease that you have to pay. If you cut off a lease early, you have to pay your leaseholder an extra amount for cutting off the lease early. To continue into the economic difficulties during a shutdown, as I said earlier, the government shutdown actually costs money. So in 2013, the cost of the government shutdown alone was $24 billion. This can go into how if people are unpaid during this time, workers' inability to pay their own bills during a government shutdown can also hinder the effects. This continued into people losing their jobs. So over 120,000 private sector jobs in 2013 were lost due to the government shutdown. Many other economic difficulties have seen it. Although the stock market isn't really affected because it isn't part of the government, even though it is government regulated, it is mostly done because of private businesses. That's why it remains unaffected. So my own personal experience, I have seen people lose their security clearances, and this has directly affected their job because of their loss of security clearance. I've also seen some people have to take out payday loans, even though it is highly recommended for being in the military to take a payday loan. I have seen people take it, but we do have many resources in the government or in the DoD itself to try to help ease the burden during these times. So to summarize, I have gone over some of the problems of the shutdown, which affects the government agencies that are affected by the shutdown, some of the myths that go along with it, economic difficulties, as well as my own personal experiences, as well as the people being affected by the shutdown. I hope I have enlightened you into the reasons why people should continue to be paid during a government shutdown and to keep people employed during this time, as we don't want the snowball effect to keep happening to any civilian or DoD member afterwards.